We're going to start today in QuickBooks Online using a sandbox account. I will advise some QuickBooks instances do look slightly different between the live QuickBooks and this sandbox account. So if your QuickBooks doesn't look exactly like mine, it's okay. When we first log into QuickBooks, you'll land on this dashboard page, which gives us an overview of the data that is in QuickBooks. Today, we're primarily focusing on the Sales tab in the left column. By clicking on the Sales tab, QuickBooks defaults its view to show all the transactions over the last year. These include open, overdue, and paid transactions, as well as payments. If we want to see only the new invoices we just posted, we would click on the filter box and apply a few filters here. First, the type of transaction. We only want to view invoices, so we'll select the invoices here. Then we only want to see open invoices, so we'll select the open in the status filter. And lastly, selecting the date the invoices were posted. If they were just posted today, we can select today as the date. QuickBooks also allows you to filter down to a specific customer if you'd like, but for today, we'll go ahead and leave it as is. Once we have our filter set, we can click on Apply, and QuickBooks will only display the invoices within those parameters. From here, we can see all the open invoices to the customers by clicking on the first checkbox, which will select all invoices. Once we have the invoices selected, we'll go into the Batch Actions and click on the Send Transactions. I will warn you, QuickBooks does not prompt any additional confirmations to send the email with the invoices to your customers, so beware when selecting this button. The email recipient will be the primary billing contact in the LegalConnect portal. Now let's look at how to edit an invoice. Again, from the Sales tab, we can view all the invoices, or for a faster search, we can click on the magnifying glass at the top right corner and enter in the invoice number, click on the magnifying glass to search, or simply click on the enter button on your keyboard to go to that specific invoice. Once we have the invoice open, we can see who the customer is, their email address, physical address, and of course the billing items with the descriptions and fees. You can click anywhere on the item record to make any edits. For example, we want to click on and edit the quantity of services of this invoice. We can click on the quantity, make the change to, let's say, 3, and the amount will automatically recalculate based on the rate. We can do the same thing if we manually change the amount. The rate will recalculate based on the quantity. Once we have everything set correctly, we can then save just by clicking the Save and Send, which will save the transactions and email the updated invoice to the customer. QuickBooks will also provide a preview of that invoice before sending it to the customer. All right, now let's look at how to manually receive in a payment. You would generally only need to do this on an invoice where the payment wasn't processed through the LegalConnect portal. Open credit customers would fall into this category. We can do this a couple different ways, but for today, let's look at an individual invoice payment. Back in the Sales tab, we'll select the specific invoice we want to apply the payment on. Once the invoice opens, we can see the Receive Payment button in the top right corner. The next screen will show us all the open invoices for this customer, but notice how the invoice we selected has the payment amount populated automatically. We need to edit the payment method over in the top left and set it to whatever the correct payment method was. Let's say this customer sent us a check. We'll change the payment method to check. The reference number will include the check number. And lastly, select the account that the check was deposited to. Now that we have the payment method information stored and the invoice the payment was for, we can click on the Save and New, which will save the payment on that invoice and allow you to apply another payment on a different invoice. Or if you click on the drop-down menu, click Save and Close, which will still save the payment but close out the payment screen. All right, now that we've received the payment on an invoice, we should send the paid invoice to the customer. You can do this, you can also do this once you've posted the payment in the LegalConnect portal. Again, from the Sales tab, we're going to filter down to the invoice type with the status of paid. Once we apply the filter, we can see only the paid transactions. Similar to how we emailed the open invoice to the customer the first time, we're going to select all the invoices by clicking on the first checkbox, which will select all the invoices, and we go into Batch Actions again and select Send Transactions. Remember, QuickBooks does not prompt any additional warnings before the email is sent, so make sure the invoices selected are what you want to send to your customer. All right. Lastly is how to create a statement. For this, we're actually going to go into the Customers tab. From here, we can select the customer we want to create the statement for. We'll go ahead and select our test law firm for this. Once we have the customer open, we can see all the transactions. In the top right corner, where the green button is, we'll select the drop-down menu and select Statement. The Create Statement window will open and allows us to apply some filters. For the statement type, the balance forward will include all open invoices with the pricing item descriptions for each of the invoice, as well as the payments to show the customer what their open balance is. Open items will give us all of the open invoices with the invoice number and amount, or the transaction statement, which will provide all transactions including open, closed invoices, and payments. We'll go ahead and click on the balance forward. In the statement date, we'll choose today's date. This is the date that we want to appear on the statement. And the start and end dates will filter to the invoices that were posted between those parameters. Once we have those filters set, we can click on the Preview and Send, or from the drop-down menu, Preview and Print. And as we can see here, the statement with each invoice detail, and we can print it from the QuickBooks to provide to your customer. Or if you clicked on Preview and Send, it'll automatically send an email to the primary billing contact with this statement. That's all we have for you today, folks. Thank you again for attending this webinar. We hope you found it helpful. Stay tuned for next week, where we'll discover the Patreon